Stop right there. Don't move.
I'm entering my workplace. What is the legal basis for this stop?
What's going on?
You don't move unless I say. Step back now!
I am not resisting. State your lawful justification.
Stand down, that's Director Reynolds.
Do not touch me.
Release him now!
The morning sun hit the glass doors of the federal building, but it wasn't sunlight that caught everyone's attention. It was the red and blue flashes bouncing off the marble steps. "Stop right there. Show me your ID," barked a police officer. The command cut sharply through the quiet city street. A man in a tailored navy suit froze mid-step, his briefcase swinging lightly at his side. The officer, hands hovering near his belt, squared himself. "You don't move unless I say. Step back." The man inhaled slowly. Calm, deliberate, unshaken. "I'm entering my workplace. What is the legal basis for this stop?" His voice was firm but measured. Pedestrians slowed, some pulling out phones. A neighbor peered from a balcony, another from behind tinted glass. The tension thickened, pressing against the morning air like it might snap. "Before I continue, I want to know, where are you watching from? And if you're interested in stories like this, make sure to hit subscribe. It helps keep these real, eye-opening moments coming." The man was Nathan Reynolds, 50, tall, and broad-shouldered, with a calm authority that came from decades of law enforcement experience. He had grown up in a small Alabama town, raised by a single mother, learning early that life could be unfair and that systems often favored the wrong people. Education became his shield and sword. Through grit and persistence, he climbed the ranks of federal law enforcement, eventually becoming the director of a major federal agency. Every case, every courtroom, every internal investigation had taught him one thing. Knowledge of the law was power and protection. Standing in front of him, blocking the entrance, was Officer Thomas Blake, 36. 9 years on the force, known for his aggressive stops and rigid interpretation of authority. He had been raised in a military household, taught to expect obedience and to enforce rules without question. Blake interpreted Nathan's calm demeanor as defiance. He had never faced someone like this. "You do not move," Blake repeated, stepping closer, hand brushing his radio. "Comply or face consequences." "I am not resisting," Nathan replied evenly. "You are blocking a federal entrance without lawful justification. Please state the legal basis for this stop." Blake's jaw tightened. He signaled subtly for backup. Another officer appeared, positioning himself near the steps. Across the street, a security camera rotated, a neighbor raised a phone, and a few more witnesses appeared quietly, sensing something unusual. This wasn't an ordinary morning. Nathan's mind cataloged everything: stance, tone, subtle shifts in the officer's body language, and the increasing crowd of witnesses. Every gesture, every command, every second could become evidence. He knew this dance well. Misjudgment by one side could spiral into a confrontation with serious consequences. "Step aside," Blake ordered, louder this time. Nathan tilted his head slightly, observing. "I am not resisting. I am asking for lawful justification. This is my building. I am entering my workplace." Blake took a half-step closer, hand resting near his belt, tone sharp. "You are challenging my authority." Nathan didn't flinch. "I am asking that the law be applied correctly. Standing in front of me, blocking my entrance without a valid reason is not lawful. Please provide justification." The officers exchanged glances. Their confidence wavered under Nathan's composed insistence. Across the street, the crowd grew slowly. Phones were recording. The ordinary morning was now a test of control versus legality. "Comply now," Blake said, voice rising, signaling clearly that escalation was possible. Nathan reached calmly into his briefcase and pulled out his federal identification, holding it steadily where it caught the sunlight. The badge gleamed, the credentials clearly visible. Blake's eyes widened, uncertainty flickering across his face. Lieutenant Margaret Lane arrived moments later, her presence immediate and commanding. "Director Reynolds," she said, scanning the scene. The officers stiffened, awareness dawning that the man they had blocked was not just anyone. Their previous certainty evaporated instantly. Lane turned to Blake. "Return all personal property immediately. Notify your supervisor. Full statement now. There is no excuse for this." Nathan stepped forward, past the officers, each stride deliberate. His poise, calm, and authority now fully established, reflected the law and the responsibility he carried. The crowd outside watched silently but intently, their phones recording every step. After Nathan entered the building, the incident did not end. Within hours, the video circulating online ignited widespread attention. Thousands watched as a black man, the director of federal law enforcement, was blocked from entering his own workplace by a police officer. Legal analysts dissected the incident, highlighting procedural violations and potential civil rights infringements. The internal affairs investigation began immediately. Officers Blake and the backup officer, Cole, were placed on administrative leave. Interviews revealed failures in judgment, assumptions made without verification, and an escalation fueled by implicit bias. Both officers faced disciplinary action, one terminated, the other suspended. The department implemented mandatory de-escalation training, bias recognition programs, and stricter verification protocols. Nathan did not pursue personal revenge. His goal was systemic. Ensure authority was exercised within the law, protect citizens' rights, and prevent similar incidents in the future. He knew the power of accountability, documentation, and public scrutiny. Every step, every recorded moment, became evidence of what happens when bias meets unchecked authority. The confrontation demonstrated a critical lesson. Under the Fourth Amendment, a person cannot be obstructed or forced to produce identification at their own property without reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. This legal principle protects workplaces, homes, and public trust in the system. Misapplication, fueled by implicit bias, distorts judgment, threatens the safety, and undermines justice. For individuals in similar situations, Nathan's example offers clear strategies. Remain calm, request legal justification, document the encounter, present credentials deliberately, and request supervisors or higher authority if questioned. Preserve all evidence and consult legal counsel immediately after. The incident became a training example for law enforcement, emphasizing accountability, bias recognition, and procedural integrity. Nathan's calm assertion of his rights, legal expertise, and documentation ensured justice without confrontation or violence. It highlighted that authority without verification is vulnerable to challenge, and that systemic oversight is crucial. This morning, at the federal building, was no longer ordinary. It was a lesson in law, bias, and accountability. It proved that a single individual, knowledgeable and composed, could hold authority to its legal limits, even when facing intimidation. Nathan's actions ensured that the law was respected, rights were preserved, and public trust reinforced. Outside, the city slowly returned to routine, but the event had left a permanent imprint. Videos, eyewitness accounts, and media coverage immortalized the encounter. The officer's misjudgment became an undeniable reference for discussions about power, bias, and civil rights enforcement. The street, once quiet, now echoed with lessons about accountability and the courage to insist on legality. Nathan Reynolds knew the work ahead would continue. Systemic reform was a marathon, not a sprint. But this incident, captured in real time and witnessed by many, provided a tangible victory. Evidence that calm, lawful, and documented insistence on rights could prevail against bias and misuse of authority. The day ended with Nathan in his office, reviewing case files, reflecting on the confrontation. The lesson was clear. Authority must be checked, laws must be followed, and rights must be defended. Every citizen deserves that protection, and every officer must be accountable. The ordinary morning had become extraordinary, leaving lessons that could reshape interactions between citizens and law enforcement for years to come. The tension outside the federal building didn't fade once Nathan Reynolds disappeared inside. Phones still recorded, neighbors whispered, and a small crowd lingered. Word traveled fast. Within minutes, videos were shared online. The scene, a black man in a tailored suit being blocked by a police officer, sparked immediate outrage and disbelief. The public didn't yet know who Nathan was. They saw only a man asserting his rights against an aggressive law enforcement officer. Back inside, Nathan walked calmly through the lobby, each step precise, deliberate. His briefcase swung lightly, and his ID badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Staff looked up, stunned by the story already circulating on social media. Some whispered, "That was the director out there." Others pulled phones, trying to see the clip that had gone viral in real time. Nathan didn't react. His focus was immediate. Document everything, follow procedure, and ensure accountability for what had happened outside. Meanwhile, Officer Blake and Officer Cole were waiting in the squad room, tense, unspoken fear pressing on them. Blake, normally self-assured, ran his hands over his face. He didn't even resist, he muttered. Cole shook his head. "We didn't check him properly. I don't know what I was thinking." The uncertainty that had started outside now consumed them internally. For the first time, Blake questioned his own assumptions and instincts. Lieutenant Margaret Lane entered, her presence commanding the room. "Blake Cole," she said sharply, "you've obstructed a federal director from entering his own building. That is a serious violation. You will provide full statements immediately. You are on administrative leave effective now. No exceptions." The words landed like a hammer. Blake's face paled, and Cole swallowed hard. Outside, the story gained momentum. News outlets began covering it as a civil rights incident, highlighting the unusual escalation and public documentation. Analysts dissected the encounter. Officers blocking a federal entrance, escalation without cause, and bias influencing judgment. The footage clearly showed Nathan's calm demeanor and repeated requests for legal justification, contrasting with the aggressive commands of the officers. Every viewer could see that authority had been misused. Nathan convened an internal meeting with his team. He reviewed the morning step by step. What the officers said, their movements, the crowd, the security footage, and the video captured by neighbors. Every detail mattered. "We must address this, not just for myself, but to set an example," he said. "Every officer must understand that authority has limits. Documentation and accountability are not optional. They are the law." He called internal affairs and ensured the complaint against Blake and Cole was logged immediately. Evidence included time-stamped videos, eyewitness statements, and security footage. Nathan didn't need revenge. His goal was systemic reform. He wanted to ensure that what happened to him, being obstructed and intimidated without cause, would not happen to anyone else. Hours later, an intense conversation unfolded between Nathan and Blake via conference call, recorded for internal use. Blake's voice was shaky, defensive, yet trying to assert control. "Sir, I didn't know it was you. I was following protocol. He moved toward me. So I thought he might resist." Nathan's tone was calm, sharp, and unwavering. "Officer Blake, step toward me and read my credentials before blocking a federal director. Step aside and verify identity. Do you understand the difference?" "Yes, sir," Blake admitted, voice low, realizing the gravity. I misjudged the situation." Misjudged. Nathan pressed. You acted on assumptions. You blocked lawful entry. That is obstruction. You created risk for me, for the public, and for the department. Do you see the consequences of acting on bias rather than facts? Blake's silence answered the question more clearly than words. Nathan continued. Authority is not power over people. It's responsibility to uphold the law correctly. You failed today, but recognition is the first step. Corrective action will follow. Learn from it, or it will repeat. The conversation ended, leaving Blake visibly shaken. Nathan's calm precision and knowledge of the law left no room for excuses. The encounter outside wasn't a personal vendetta. It was a textbook case in procedural failure and misuse of authority. Days passed, and the public pressure intensified. Social media amplified the story, advocacy groups highlighted it as a civil rights violation, and legal analysts broke down the officer's errors. Demonstrations occurred outside the federal building. Nathan did not speak publicly at first. He let evidence, procedure, and transparency tell the story. The video showed everything. Clear, undeniable, time-stamped. Every word, gesture, and movement documented the truth. Internal Affairs concluded their investigation within weeks. Blake was terminated. Cole was suspended. The department implemented immediate reforms. Mandatory de-escalation training, bias recognition programs, and stricter verification protocols for anyone entering secure federal facilities. Every officer would now follow precise steps to confirm identity and avoid assumptions. Nathan's insistence on law and documentation ensured these reforms were applied systematically. Nathan's approach remained consistent, systemic, not personal. He held no grudge against Blake beyond the need for accountability. It's not about revenge, he told his team. It's about ensuring authority is exercised within legal boundaries. That's what protects the public and our officers alike. The incident became part of law enforcement training. Trainees reviewed the video, analyzed each decision, and studied Nathan's calm, deliberate approach to asserting rights. Lecturers emphasized the lessons. Authority must be verified, bias must be recognized, escalation must be controlled, and documentation is essential. Nathan also spoke with civil rights educators, using the incident as a teaching moment. He outlined steps for ordinary citizens. Remain calm. Ask for legal justification. Document interactions, present credentials deliberately, and involve supervisors or higher authority when necessary. Preserve all evidence and seek legal counsel immediately after. These principles applied to every citizen, not just someone in his position. The story spread beyond law enforcement. It became a cultural reference for discussions about bias, power, and rights. Nathan Reynolds, a federal director, had been blocked at the entrance to his own building. But his calm, procedural response turned the situation into a victory for accountability and justice. Weeks later, Nathan reflected on the incident quietly in his office. The morning had been ordinary routine, but the outcome was extraordinary. Authority had been challenged, bias had been exposed, and systemic reform had been implemented. He realized the most important lesson. Knowledge, calmness, and procedural adherence were more powerful than confrontation. Law and documentation could correct even the most egregious misuse of authority. Outside the building, life continued. The marble steps returned to silence. Pedestrians passed without noticing the past confrontation. But the story lived on in recordings, media coverage, training materials, and public awareness. Nathan's composure, legal knowledge, and insistence on procedure had transformed what could have been a moment of personal conflict into a systemic win. Every officer learned that day a critical lesson. Authority must be grounded in law, not assumption. Every citizen, watching the video online or reading news coverage, learned that rights could be asserted safely and effectively if approached with calm precision and clear documentation. Nathan's example would continue shaping interactions, policy, and training for years to come. By standing firm, following the law, and documenting everything, Nathan Reynolds ensured that justice was not just an ideal, it was enforced. The incident at the entrance became a landmark example of accountability, bias recognition, and procedural integrity. It proved that courage and knowledge could confront misuse of authority without violence, intimidation, or compromise of principles. And in that quiet victory, behind the marble doors of the federal building, Nathan Reynolds returned to his work, not seeking glory, not seeking revenge, but ensuring that every citizen, every officer, and every system respected the law. Authority without verification, he knew, was dangerous. Calm assertion of rights, properly documented, was powerful. And that power had been demonstrated, clearly, publicly, and undeniably.